The Niners Seahawks rematch was in week 15. It was only about a month ago. So a lot of those ideas and a lot of the things that happened in that game can translate to this one. When I was watching the Niners, I just couldn't get over how incredible they look on both sides of the ball. The skill position talent, Debo didn't even play.
Yep.
And the guys that they have on that side, the first McCaffrey run that he had, it looks like he gets shot out of a cannon. You go when you watch them play on defense, and the defensive line just takes over by the end of the game, and Bosa's a monster, and Warner was erasing an area of the field. Travarius Ward had a great game, which we're going to talk about. And that's how they felt over the second half of the season. Obviously, they've had some speed bumps. They didn't play great against the Raiders and stuff like that, but they have just been overwhelming. That is the adjective that I would use about them over the second half of the year. And I felt like that week 15 game was such a stark reminder of that.
Yeah, both sides of the ball, like you said. The defense, of course, is, I mean, just an absolutely fantastic unit, no matter how you want to try to attack them, passing or running the ball. The way we talk about their D-line always playing with their hair on fire, but just every position, linebackers, DBs, they all play the same way, all the same mindset. And then on offense, it's just they could literally take any touch to the house. They have that type of juice on offense. And like you said, like when you get away, you kind of, I like doing this show. Sometimes we watch the same team maybe 3 weeks in a row, and then you kind of take a breather sometimes where it's like, okay, we're talking about other teams and just the flow of the season. Even just a couple weeks of not watching the 49ers on film in all 22, and then watching other defenses. Like I watched the Jags Titans game, watching Giants Vikings, watching just some other games throughout the last couple months, and then rewatching the 49ers against the Seahawks, and then the 49ers also against the Cardinals last week. I'm like, oh my God, this team is so fast. This is the fastest team I've ever seen in my life. You don't really, it's like you have to take a step away to really appreciate it again, get back to that giddiness, watching this team, watching this defense and the offense. That's how I feel watching it. Their offense, especially when they have that 21 personnel, those 5 guys out there, Debo, Christian McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, and Juszczyk. Juszczyk's kind of the Harrison Barnes role for their death lineup.
Valuable. He does a lot of work. He is a necessary component to what they do.
Maybe he's the Draymond Green playing center for their death lineup, but that's what I'm going to call.
That's Draymond Green's a Hall of Fame player.
Maybe Kittle. Maybe Kittle's Draymond Green. I'm going to make this work by the end of the show, but it's their death lineup. That is their 5 guys, and man, it's the versatility they show. Like Kyle Shanahan is so creative, and watching how when we say creative, we kind of throw that word around a lot. It's not like he's just doing gadget plays. The creativity comes in using the same freaking 5 guys, 21 personnel, and lining guys up in standard sets, hip formations, eye formations, spread them all out, but just using every guy at every spot. That is when we say creative, and the versatility of this offense. And of course, some of these guys can touch the ball and take it to the house. It's awesome. It's an awesome team to watch. And especially even if that Seahawks game that wasn't super high scoring and everything, you just see the speed and just see, like you said, they just overwhelm teams. And then when they're playing teams that are lesser talented, the Cardinals last week, it's like, oh my God, you just feel bad for the other team because they're just holding on for dear life.
The numbers over the second half of the season are wild. So their total DVOA in the second half of the year is 50.4. That doesn't really have much context, but just to explain it, the Bills are second at 34.5. So the gap between the Niners and the Bills at 2 is bigger than the gap between the Bills and the Steelers at 7. That's how dominant the Niners have been in the second half of the year. They're 9.5-point favorites, Nate, against a real playoff team in the Seahawks, really solid team with a 7th round rookie at quarterback, their 3rd string quarterback. They're 9.5-point favorites.
Yep.
That is what this team looks like right now. And that doesn't seem high at all based on how much they've been rolling. There was the drive in the first quarter where they scored their first touchdown in week 15. They had a play on a 2nd and 10. They were in 21 personnel. Seahawks were in base. And they ran a little concept to the left side where Juszczyk went to the flat from a tight end spot. McCaffrey ran a little curl, and they had Ayuk and an in-breaker behind him. It was a little high-low. And the spacing is just so perfect. And I'm looking at poor Barton, and I'm just thinking, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
There's just no good answer. And they just put those guys in a torture chamber. And like 2 or 3 plays later, they run that fake screen wide delayed at Kittle for a touchdown. And they just feel like a force of nature right now on both sides of the ball. And that was so so apparent while rewatching them last night.
Right. There's so much with a Shanahan passing game. We're going to talk about the run game, of course, but in that passing game, like you're saying, is that they really get guys on islands as far as their really good matchups that they want. So it's Debo in the slot against some poor linebacker, or it's Ayuk in motion doing something. It's Kittle on a linebacker or a safety. Like even when you watch the offense, you can see even going from Jimmy G to Purdy. And so much of the scheme is exactly the same. I've said this multiple times. That is not a joke. They run the exact same plays with Jimmy G and Purdy. These guys get on an island. Purdy looks, or Jimmy G, to that matchup that they probably have gone over the whole week. And really, and I don't mean this as in the sense that the scheme is the same, but it feels like college in the sense where it's one missed tackle, your defense is done.
Because one missed tackle, one missed assignment, one missed anything. It's over.
It explodes. And just that's it. And that's why there's some differences with college offenses and NFL offenses. Shanahan's actually even talked about this. Is so many of those guys are on islands. That's why there's all that speed, because one missed tackle goes to the house. That's what this feels like, even though the scheme, of course, is wildly different. And especially when this has happened with Shanahan offenses before, there's been different there's always the same bones, but just different tweaks with it, with depending on his personnel. But getting CMC there was kind of like his muse. Like that is like where you're seeing like this is what he wants to do with his offense. And like just with that, we're talking about passing game, just the run difference once they got Christian McCaffrey into that lineup. The weeks without him, 1 through 6, rush success rate, 28th in the league. They bumped up to 6th with CMCs from week 7 through 18. EPA per play, tied for 24th. This is so not Shanahan-like. And they bumped up to 3rd EPA per rush. Then also rush DVOA. They went from 28th to 2nd. So it's as soon as they got him, this offense just exploded. And that fact exploded so much that we don't even notice that, like you said, Mr. Irrelevant is starting at quarterback for them, because that's just how they just keep churning along.